Okay, so picture this. You're at the grocery store, and suddenly everything's priced in, let's say, yuan.
Hmm,
Sounds wild, right?
it does.
But the reality is the U.S. dollar's grip on global trade might not be as ironclad as we think.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see these dynamics shifting. We've grown so accustomed to the dollar being the default. But there's a group of nations, the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and they're actively working to change that.
And they're not exactly being subtle about it, are they? We've
Yeah,
seen some pretty strong statements lately.
definitely.
Leaders calling out the dollar's dominance, even threats of tariffs flying back and forth.
Yeah, it's a high-stakes game for sure, for decades. The US dollar has been the world's reserve currency, the one held by central banks worldwide and used for most international transactions.
So it's kind of like a global vote of confidence in the currency's value.
It is, exactly.
But these BRICS nations, they're looking to establish a new order.
They are.
So help me understand this. Why does this reserve currency status matter so much?
But
What's in it for the country whose currency holds that position?
it comes down to influence and economic advantage.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Oil, a crucial commodity, is primarily traded in US dollars.
Right.
That means any country needing oil needs those dollars, instantly boosting demand and propping up their value.
So the U.S. benefits immensely from this arrangement.
Absolutely.
But what happens if things shift? I mean, if the dollar loses its reserve currency status, what happens to the U.S. economy?
It could have a ripple effect.
It sounds like a pretty big deal.
Oh, it is. It could impact everything from the stock market to the price of everyday goods.
Wow.
And to really grasp the potential magnitude, we need to look back at how we got here.
Okay.
Back in 1944, the US dollar became the world's reserve currency. This marked the beginning of an era of American economic power.
So we've been at the top for a while.
We have.
But things change, right? I mean, there have been other reserve currencies throughout history.
Absolutely, and none of them lasted forever.
Right.
A fascinating parallel can be drawn to Ray Dalio's book, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order.
Okay, I've heard of that.
His research suggests that empires and their reserve currencies follow these predictable cycles, typically enjoying 50 to 100 years of dominance before things shift.
So if Dalio's thesis holds true, are we nearing the end of the U.S. dollar's reign?
Well, it's been over 80 years since the dollar took the top spot.
Yeah.
While predicting the exact timeline is impossible, the signs are certainly pointing towards a transition.
That's pretty thought-provoking. So how does this all tie back to the BRICS nations and their efforts? What exactly are they doing to shake things up?
They're taking concrete steps to challenge the dollar's dominance. For instance, promoting trade in their own currencies, establishing alternative payment systems, and exploring the creation of a new reserve currency backed by a basket of commodities, including gold, which they've been steadily accumulating.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is.
They are.
These actions are sending a clear message. The era of unilateral dollar dominance is being challenged.
It is.
Okay, this is getting a lot more concrete. Now, we're not just talking about abstract theories here. These are real-world actions with the potential to reshape the global financial landscape.
Exactly. And the impact could be significant. Think about the stock market, for example. If confidence in the dollar diminishes, it could lead to increased volatility and potentially even a decline in stock prices as investors seek safer havens.
I see. So if stocks become riskier, where do investors turn?
That's where those alternative assets like gold come into play. The BRICS nations are strategically positioning themselves, and understanding their moves can offer valuable insights for anyone looking to navigate this evolving financial landscape.
Okay. So we're potentially looking at a future where the US dollar is less dominant.
Right.
What could that actually look like?
Well, imagine a world where global trade isn't solely reliant on one currency.
Okay.
A multipolar system where various currencies, perhaps even regional ones, hold significant sway.
So less of a single superpower and more of a network of influential players. Interesting. What would that mean for global cooperation and relations?
Well, it's a complex question, but increased economic parity could potentially lead to more collaborative efforts on issues like climate change or international trade agreements. If countries aren't vying for dominance through a single currency, there's more incentive to find common ground.
That's a potential upside I hadn't considered. So less about winner takes all and more about shared responsibility and benefits.
Precisely. And from a purely financial standpoint, A less dominant dollar could create space for other currencies to gain prominence, leading to a more dynamic and competitive global market.
Okay.
This could even spark innovation in the financial sector as new systems and solutions emerge.
So fascinating to think about how these shifts could impact everyday people if the dollar weakens. What are the potential ramifications for consumers like us?
Well, one possibility is that imported goods could become more expensive. We're already seeing inflation concerns, and a weaker dollar could exacerbate this trend, impacting everything from the cost of electronics to the price of our morning coffee.
Yeah, that's a downside I think a lot of people are worried about, especially with rising costs already being a major concern.
It's a valid concern, of course. The flip side is that a weaker dollar could make U.S. exports more competitive, potentially boosting domestic manufacturing and creating jobs.
Okay, so there's a potential trade-off there, more jobs, but also higher prices on some things.
Right.
It's getting trickier to assess the overall impact, isn't it?
Definitely, there are a lot of moving parts. And the ultimate outcome will depend on a number of factors, including how governments and individuals respond to these changing dynamics. But being aware of the potential scenarios is crucial for making informed decisions.
So let's say the dollar's dominance does decline. What are some specific steps people can take to protect themselves financially?
Diversification is key. Don't rely solely on U.S.-centric investments. Explore opportunities in international markets, consider foreign currencies, and diversify your income streams. The broader your financial base, the more resilient you'll be.
That makes sense. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially when the basket itself might be getting a little shaky.
Exactly, and we've already discussed gold as a potential hedge. It's historically been seen as a safe haven asset during times of economic uncertainty, and it's something worth researching further.
Gold seems to be a recurring thing here, so if someone's interested in exploring that option, where do they even begin?
Talking to a financial advisor is always a good first step. They can help you assess your individual risk tolerance and guide you towards investments that align with your goals. There are also numerous resources available online and in libraries that can provide valuable insights into the world of precious metals.
So it's about doing our due diligence and not just blindly following the latest headlines.
Precisely informed decisions come from a well-rounded understanding of the subject matter.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
So as the global financial landscape evolves, what are some key trends we should be watching? For what signs might indicate that the dollar's dominance is truly waning?
Keep an eye on how other countries are conducting their international trade. Are they increasingly moving away from the U.S. dollar? Are new reserve currencies gaining traction? Also, pay attention to central bank activity. Are they diversifying their reserves away from the dollar? These are all indicators of a potential shift in power.
It sounds like we need to broaden our perspective beyond just what's happening within our own borders. The world is becoming increasingly interconnected, and we need to stay informed about global events.
Absolutely. And remember, these shifts are not happening overnight. It's a gradual process, and being aware of the early signs allows us to adapt and make informed decisions.
It's a fascinating, if slightly daunting time to be alive. It's almost like watching a financial thriller unfold in real time.
It certainly keeps things interesting, but knowledge is power, and the more we understand these changes, the better prepared we'll be to navigate the future.
Well said. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from understanding the historical context to exploring potential scenarios and actionable steps. We've really delved into the complexities of this topic, but I get the feeling we're just getting started.
We've only scratched the surface. There's always more to learn and explore.
So we've spent the last two segments talking about, a potential future where the U.S. dollar isn't the only big player in the game.
Right.
And it's given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
So in this final segment, I want to focus on, what we can actually do about it.
Okay.
How can we as individuals prepare for these shifts and maybe even find opportunity amidst the uncertainty?
It's a great question, and I think it's empowering to remember that we do have agency in this process.
Right.
It's not just about passively watching events unfold. We can take concrete steps to position ourselves for a changing financial landscape.
So let's get practical. What are some tangible actions people can take? We've touched on diversification, but are there specific areas or strategies you'd recommend exploring?
Absolutely. We've talked about gold, and that's certainly one avenue. But consider also looking into other commodities, like silver, platinum, or even industrial metals.
Okay.
They often perform well during periods of inflation and economic uncertainty.
So broadening our investment horizons beyond just stocks and bonds.
Exactly. Real estate can also be a strong hedge against inflation.
Okay.
As the dollar weakens, tangible assets like property tend to hold their value.
That's interesting.
It's worth considering, especially if you're looking for long-term stability.
So we're talking about diversifying not just across asset classes, but also across geographic regions.
Precisely, don't limit yourself to domestic investments. Look into emerging markets, particularly within the BRICS nations.
Mm-hmm.
They're poised for significant growth, and their currencies could appreciate as the dollar's dominance wanes.
So there's potential to not just mitigate risk, but actually capitalize on these global shifts.
Absolutely. It's about being proactive and spotting opportunities where others might see only uncertainty.
I like that mindset. It's about embracing change rather than fearing it.
Exactly. And remember, knowledge is your most valuable asset in this process.
Okay.
Stay informed about global economic trends, read analyses from diverse perspectives, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
This can feel like a very complex and overwhelming topic. Where can people go to find reliable information and guidance?
There are many reputable financial websites, publications, and podcasts out there.
Right.
Look for sources that are independent and objective and offer a balanced perspective.
Okay.
And of course, don't hesitate to consult with a financial advisor.
Right.
They can help you tailor a strategy that aligns with your individual goals and risk tolerance.
So it's about finding trusted voices amidst the noise and being proactive in seeking out information.
Absolutely. The more you understand, the more empowered you'll be to make informed decisions.
This conversation has been incredibly insightful. We've explored a potential future that many people might not even be aware of, and we've provided some concrete steps they can take to navigate this changing landscape.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you,
Likewise.
and I hope our listeners feel more informed and prepared to face whatever the future holds.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of BRICS and the dollar, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
The global financial landscape is dynamic, and constantly evolving change can be unsettling, but it also presents opportunities. By staying informed, diversifying our investments, and embracing a global perspective, we can not only weather the storm, but potentially thrive in a new financial order.
That's a powerful message to end on. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this deep dive informative and engaging. As always, we encourage you to share your thoughts, questions, and insights in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share this episode with anyone who might be interested in learning more about the future of global finance. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.